Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MSP 1337. I'm joined this week by none other than Charles Love of ShowTech Solutions. Charles, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Hey, last time we talked, it was before the end of the year, and we did our annual predictions, look back, and I was thinking about, if we just said, did, hey, all of those predictions come true in January? And I thought that wasn't fair because, well, it's just barely February, and I'm not sure that we've given those predictions a chance to come true yet. But one thing that has been floating around in my head, and I wanted to get your take on this, is, for lack of a better title, the world we live in is consumed by applications to solve problems in our daily lives. Are we sacrificing convenience over privacy? I guess would be where I want to start that whole conversation.
Yeah, and the answer is nobody knows, right? Nobody knows, right?
Well,
There's a thing, and somebody says, "Hey, you should try this thing," and nobody reads the disclaimer or whatever. Nobody looks at the permissions it's giving you or using. They just kind of roll with it.
and we've all done it, right? I am no less guilty of this than the next person on. I found an app that solves a problem for me. I've used tools like Zapier and Power Apps to help automate things. Maybe sometimes it's as simple as writing a rule in Outlook to help it navigate and put something, create a task somewhere. But as I was having this conversation last week with Jeff from Andromeda, we were talking about the things that we're taking for granted that when you go into, and we see this a lot in more of the, I'll call them less technical verticals. Maybe I'm not downplaying that there aren't people that work in these spaces that are very technical, but you think about things like manufacturing or medical or any sort of like where the job itself isn't tied to technology. A doctor isn't diagnosing a patient, just asking, the robot in the corner, like, well, what do you think? Not saying that's not in our future, but I mean, like, those industry verticals are often looking at technology through the lens of, is it going to inhibit me from getting work done? Is it going to just cost me more money because now you're telling me I got to replace the multi-million-dollar MRI machine because it's running Windows XP, but it still works just like it did when we bought it. Why do I need to upgrade? So with that in mind, I look at the technology space and kind of through the same lens go, okay, ban on TikTok. Now I'm using Red Note. For me, consumer, I solved my problem, right? I went from this app to that app without even taking into consideration what am I sacrificing, giving up, or otherwise just giving away to have that convenience.
Well, we kind of went through this journey. God, 6 to 8 months ago. As you know, we're going through the GTIA trust mark,
Sure.
and as we start really evaluating all the things that we have set up, we start tightening the bolts, right? Just making everything just a little bit more secure than it was, or in a lot of cases, a lot more secure.
Right.
One of the things that people absolutely take for granted is OAuth authentication against, say, we'll just use Office 365 just because that was our example.
Yeah.
So we went through and said nobody can sign up new OAuth apps, right? So if I want to log into something net new, there's that little cool Microsoft button. I click it, and it tells me, the guy in charge, sorry, you don't have permissions. Talk to your administrator.
Would you like to request this app?
Yes. So now what it makes us do is go, all right, before I hit this button, do I need the thing? No. A lot of times people are like, I don't want to bother. I just wanted to check something out. And then because a part of the trust mark has taught us, you really got to read what it does.
Sure.
And the amount of things out there that you unknowingly are giving access to SharePoint, OneDrive, like location data, stuff like that. Like for a PDF reader, like why do you need access to OneDrive? That makes no sense. I'm not even saving it to OneDrive. It has nothing do with OneDrive. Yet before, you would just be like, well, I want to use it to log in. Click. Now, people are taking this a little more serious. And when they start saying, no, we're going to put a little bit of governance around this stuff, it really makes you stop and think, should I be doing this? And what is it doing? And why is a PDF reader wanting access to SharePoint and OneDrive?
Well, let me ask a question along those lines because I've been struggling with this too. You use the reference to say Acrobat or your PDF reader or whatever it might be, whoever it might be from, the permissions. But it also got me thinking about some of this is also happening inside of the ecosystems that are allegedly under one product suite or one authentication package by default. So like we'll just use 365 as an example since we're already on that one. You know, people joke, or you can go, search YouTube and you'll find plenty of videos around taking advantage of the hidden gems, the hidden applications inside the
Yeah.
365 ecosystem that you didn't know about. And you're like, ooh, what is Loop? What is List? What is fill in the blank, right? But but that's like the best case example that I've seen thus far, right? Like that we know that these apps are either being built inside their ecosystem or they've been built and acquired and have now been integrated into their ecosystem, right? But if you look at other ecosystems out there, and we don't need to go down the rabbit hole of names because I might end up with a target on my back, but like such and such acquisition just happened, nothing's going to change, pricing's not changing. You're like, cool. And then you're like, well, how do these apps talk to each other? These apps are talking to each other. Should they be talking to each other? And going back to the 365 example, I've noticed that there are apps in that ecosystem that as soon as you go click on that app, it immediately prompts you to do your SSO sign on again, even though you're already logged in the
Yeah.
browser to 365.
Yeah. And use uh, just lack of a better word, the Facebook login, right?
Sure.
So a lot of sites, well, it's like, do you want to use Microsoft? Do you want to use Facebook? Do you want to use the Google machine? Heck, Apple ID. Um, and it's not necessarily like straight SSO, but now all I have to do is click on the Facebook thing, and then I could do the thing. But now it has access to that, right? And we all joke about every time hey, we should buy a Mach-E, right? The
Yeah.
2025 Mach-E. Next thing you know, all you see is ads for a Mach-E. You know what I mean?
You know what they haven't added though is single sign-on for your CarPlay.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just, it's little things like that. So now when you start linking all these things together, you know, depending upon what they're doing, if they're backfeeding that telemetry data or whatever data that is, so wait, now I'm going to get ads for the new car and this platform, and then am I going to get emails too because it tied into 365? There's all these
Well,
crazy scenarios.
now you're bringing up something that I've really struggled with. So, when is the conversation okay to have? Let's just say you and I have, maybe it's a hiring opportunity or it's a disciplinary action or any number of things. Are we safe having that conversation in your office? Let's just say hypothetically, no one is in the office except for you and me. you know, just thinking about the things that are picking up audio that are all around us, from closed circuit cameras to you name it. And I hate to go down the path of Big Brother, but like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, because the other day I was like, put it in the Faraday cage, run outside into the middle of the field, and then we can have a conversation.
Well, I struggle from forgetting which uh, robot I'm talking to. Right? Is it is it Siri? Is it Hey Google? Is it Amazon? Like which one are we doing? Right?
And for those of you listening, I hope we triggered all of your IoT devices.
So I'll give you a funny. This is so topical for what you just said. As you know, I have a print farm, a 3D print farm, right?
Yeah, we know. We
Yeah,
watched the
yeah,
power lights blip there in Tampa.
yeah. No, but here's where it gets weird. So, because the holiday rush is over, I brought some of the printers to the office, right? So that the guys can like print whatever they want. So, because I don't like the camera that comes on the bamboo, I buy these Wise cameras. Mind you, I don't pay for the recording storage. I don't care. It's I don't need to go see the history of a part printing. I just want to see if the part is printing, right?
Right.
I'm not being cheap. I don't need it.
Right.
Um,
It's like the
so
water bottle that tells you should drink more water.
yeah,
Great.
exactly. So,
When
but
it's
here's
empty, I know I did good.
here's where it gets weird. So I know they have sound capabilities, and I know this because every time I set up a new printer, I always forget to turn it off, and then my phone just goes sound detected, sound detected, sound detected. So I don't know, an hour out of Clearwater at this point, which is about 45 minutes during traffic away from Tampa. And I look at my phone and I'm getting a message saying the alarm is going off, like at the office. I'm like, huh, wonder what happened. So I'm sitting there trying to log into the app to see why is the alarm going off, right? Um, and next thing you know, I get a note from Wise that the smoke detector it says smoke detected. So I'm like, oh my god, I'm burning the office down. Like with my printer. How do I explain that one, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm panicking, right? Because the alarm's going off and the printer's telling me it says smoke detected. Okay. This is a very important part of the story. So I'm like, pull over. I'm like panicking, I'm like, I get on the cameras, everything is groovy, and I look, and an employee didn't realize they dilly dallied. Like the alarm when
Oh
you
yeah.
turn it on, they dilly dallied too long, and then when they opened the door,
They set the alarm off.
it triggered, and they're oblivious. They're going down the stairs, doo doo doo, yabba dabba doo, right? They're gone, and that guy's long gone. He's already on the bridge, and I'm figuring out that the alarm's going off. So now I'm like, all right, cool. So I address that. So now I start looking at the where's the smoke, and I'm watching the camera feed. Of course, my part is printing, so I'm happy. Everything is good. And every so often, I see a flash. I'm like, oh my god. So like we're getting ready to U-turn, and what it was is I don't know if you could see it. There's a TV behind me. It's an Apple TV, so it hit the screensaver. The
Uh-huh.
flashing, trust me, this all makes sense in a second. The flashing was the pictures showing up on screen. So now I'm like, all right, what is up with the smoke detector or the smoke alarm? And I'm sitting here going, wait a minute, this thing doesn't have a smoke detector.
It's a
Like
camera.
30 minutes into it, I'm like, this thing is a camera. So I start going into the app and I'm like looking through the audit log. The damn thing says smoke alarm detected.
Oh,
So, so
the
I'm
audio.
the little thing that came over said smoke detected. It did not say the word alarm, right? So what it was is the printer, which I didn't know this thing listened, right? That's a part of
Now
that
you do.
story. Now I do, and God, you've been in my office. The alarm panel is all the way on the other side of the building, right? It was loud enough. It came through the thing, and now it's telling me that basically the smoke alarm is on. So I'm like, damn, what else is that? So now I'm like looking into Wise. I'm trying to figure out how to disable the microphone. You
Or
know what I
like,
mean?
what else can it do?
Yeah, but my point here is, remember, like I said, I don't pay the premium fee. I feel like that's a premium feature to tell me that the alarm is going off, right?
Yeah,
And
but you're getting it for free.
yeah, so there's little there's things like that where yes, I have it on a BYOD network, right, just so I can watch my cameras when I'm not here on the printer. Uh, but that's a perfect case of I put in a solution I put in a thing to address the solution, which was the bamboo camera is terrible. I wanted a better, 2K camera so I can, I don't know, see the part. But unintended consequences, this thing is listening 24/7,
Well, I have so
right?
many questions now, so many questions. The first one, and we won't go into all the questions that I have, but the first question that I have is You would think a camera with that level of capability or functionality that I would at least have been told when setting it up that these are the things that are currently active.
I turned off sound detection. So I
Yeah.
guess I guess they just have. And mind you, this is the $29 camera. It is the cheapest. It is the OG version, if you're familiar with Wise. It's
Yes.
like no frills, no thrills. Um, but it's a perfect use of somebody using a thing, and they probably released a feature because printers can catch fire, right?
Sure.
So, and they know that there's a certain community that uses this to monitor their printers. Um,
Right.
but it's just kind of neat. So now, if of course, we are aware, and I have a little thing blocking the microphone hole. Um, but like sitting in my office now, right? I've got four different robots. We'll say, uh,
Hmm.
listening, listening for commands. So, and a lot of these things will have unintended consequences for good and for bad. What if Wise decides they're gonna just, I don't know, sell the recording? I don't know. This is super
Yeah. I
tinfoil hat,
mean,
but you get the
you know,
idea.
yeah, and I think this goes back to kind of where we started this conversation around, if I had an app that I built today and I took it to, publish in another country, but my disclaimer, whether I included it or not, was to exfiltrate data to the US and anything, doesn't have to be government, right? Like anything, there would immediately be like a concerned whistleblower saying we need to consider the sensitivity of data and whether or not this should be allowed in our ecosystem, right? We don't have that really happening at all. I mean, the first example we were really given was the potential ban on TikTok. We've seen really, and now they're talking about obviously DeepSeek being more of a concern, and it raises questions like, wait, if we were already, hair on the back of our neck up with TikTok, why are we even having to debate this with DeepSeek? Like, this shouldn't even be like a conversation, but yet we're seeing things like Microsoft has rolled it out in their ecosystem. It's available for you to install in your Azure or wherever. Like, at the level that we have impact, right? Like at the client base that you provide IT services to, your own staff, your own friends and family, what is the appropriate approach? Because I think education is so easy to just be, trivialize the ability to just, educate somebody on what it means to now be conscious and aware of the things that they do. It's more complicated than that, right? But what does that look like? Because I feel like that's where we are today. We are at a point where we can't just say don't do that. We have to be able to explain the why and show evidence to support that we're not crazy.
Yeah, and like, how do you know all the capabilities of the thing, right? And how do you handle the evolution of the capabilities of the thing? Like, just going back to my goofy camera example, I'm sure it didn't ship with alarm detection. I mean, maybe it did, but chances are it didn't, right? They probably added that with a feature update or something like that. Like, it just, this is the ecosystem we live in now, right? Where
Well, and you
things
can't keep
evolve.
you can't keep up with all of them, but it raises a question for me. So like I'm always excited when I see a patch available for iOS. Good, bad, or otherwise. I want to know what new weird features
Yep.
they felt that I needed to have on my device. And so I'll read through that list, especially when it's a feature that we've all been waiting for that's been in the media. But it got me thinking about, when apps are rolled out to us as employees of organizations, and here you go, here's Slack. Here you go, here's like, okay, but like, what am I actually getting? So, it's one thing to have the app, but what channels are important? How are they supposed to be used? Assuming that you have some of that information. You brought this up on 365. Like, sorry, Charles, you don't have permission to install that. Would you like to ask your administrator to approve it?
Yeah.
Like, is that an area where we should really be focused? Because I feel like when you roll an application out or you update apps for your clients, are you giving them the what this update means? Like we get the security stuff, but are we even telling them like, hey, we're doing a patch this Tuesday or tomorrow. It's addressing these things because of the concerns that have been raised through the ecosystem around threat actors. Obviously most of your clients are like, I really don't care about that stuff. Just take care of me and keep me safe. But what about the features and the productivity? Because I think we go back to what I was trying to say is shadow IT, which I think is a bad choice of words at this point. Do you need that application? Do you need that version of PDF, whatever, fill in the blank, because you've got six of them already on your machine?
Well, it's on both sides, right? So without naming the vendor, we'll just say a vendor released a what I like to think is a pretty impressive feature, right? And they released it 3 weeks before their conference. Nobody knew it was there, right? Like we kind of saw it, we didn't understand what it was. We just assumed it was a new thing. Go to the conference, they jazz you up on it, and we're like, "Oh my god, this is like the coolest thing." Get back to the office, and the trial, the free trial that we didn't know we had, expired 3 days later, right? So sometimes the vendor or whoever the manufacturer
Sure.
uh, rushes to market without telling people, hey, we've done these things, and just because you said it once doesn't mean I've retained it.
There's some vendor has the something pilot product that I don't know if you saw in the news that it's basically triggering your plans to be an increase, but you do have a path if you want to opt out to not have that feature get added so that you don't incur the increasing cost, but you have to be able to find it.
Yeah, it's just I think there's clarity needs to be the focus for 2025, right? And on both sides, right? I'll never forget customer. We've worked together. I'll call up the customer and say, "Hey, here's what's happening." Chris, he's new. He zigged when he should have zagged, and all
He
this
still
stuff.
keeps clicking on stuff.
Yeah, and I'll never forget it. The guy goes to me, uh, "You're, I want you to be like Tico," and that's the Tampa Electric Company. I go,
Oh,
"What do you mean?"
I thought that was
He
a
goes,
character on Dora the
"Yeah,
Explorer.
no, that could be," and this is very true. He goes, if we lose power, I don't have my rep calling me to tell me about the squirrel and his name and what he had for lunch and the fact that he buzzed himself in the light box and it exploded and that's why the lights went out. Rest
Yeah,
in peace, Mr. Squirrel. Like they don't tell me any
deja
of the
vu right there.
details. Like you're telling me right now. He goes, "You're telling me the name of the squirrel, what he does, what he learned." He goes, "I don't care. It. I want the lights on. Just you don't even have to tell me when the lights are on. I'll see them on."
No
Right?
way.
Yeah. He goes, "I'm paying you guys to handle it without getting me into minutia." He goes,
Right.
if I have minutia questions, I'll ask." So going back to your question about do you tell customers about things, it really depends on the customer. But I would say probably 95% A aren't going to understand what I'm saying. B think I'm trying to sell them something, and C next time they have the renewal, they'll be like, "Oh, now you're going to charge me for it," right? So it's just it's one of those things where we have to, as an industry, kind of get better at, but also on the customer side, they can't always be mad that we don't call them, and then when we call them, they just don't want to be talking,
You
right?
know, I think you're onto something though. I think it's not necessarily the act of telling as much as it is the act of being able to have proof that you could have told. So like I think it's easy to patch, especially when we talk about security vulnerabilities, obviously we track that pretty extensively, right? Like even if we're not intentionally naming the security vulnerability that was patched, it's being tracked by the tools that are doing that patching. But when someone asks for an application update, we often, I think, in our space, look at it solely through the lens of because it's a security fix. But oftentimes apps also get features that can be great. We wanted them, we've been waiting for them. You have the what we call the unintentional features, which is the byproduct of not maybe locking something down, or but it's still, you know, bug in one eye, create value to somebody else through a different lens. And then of course the third one is it breaks something. And I think that particularly with like business line applications, I think we should be doing a better job of being aware of those things that are being added to, not just the things that are being prevented from happening. Like we locked this down, but
But it's so funny because talk about customers, right? Uh, hey, I want to upgrade you to Windows 11. Oh, I don't want to go through that, all that stuff, right? So now it's a fight. Look, Windows 10 is going away. We need to update it. Da, 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 right? So I have to argue with them to get them to Windows 11. But boy, just because QuickBooks releases a patch, we must install it immediately.
that's a great point.
You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of and then they change something. They get mad at us. So you guys up? No, no, no. We we got a nasty letter stating this is the third day this week. There's an update, and we have to update it, right? So it's
Warning, warning.
yeah, right. Like an update could just be, oh, we fixed punctuation. Oh, and then we sunset this other this thing that you probably were using, but the
Right,
punctuation is now fixed, right?
right.
And there's
Now get
no
a
real
semicolon.
no, and there's no clear indicator of what happened, right? Or what's changing. Sure, I can go look at the notes, but think in the lens of an MSP. I don't know QuickBooks, right?
Yeah,
Uh, like I don't know that's an accountant thing. I don't know the inner workings, so it's like I read it and it says decommissioned legacy payroll system. Oh, that sounds good, right?
right.
But unbeknownst, 90% of the populace uses that feature that is now gone,
So I
right?
wonder if there needs to be like a disclaimer or some sort of like, because I feel like the challenge here is, and we see this with what's happening in the with the UK government right now, going down this path of requiring Apple to allow for a backdoor for the encrypted devices through the iCloud central repository, and they're basically mum's the word, right? You're not allowed to talk about this conversation. You're like, if this happens or doesn't happen, you can't. There is no disclosing that at this point. But it raises questions around the things like what you just described, because you were in the know about that legacy app going or legacy functionality going away. Is that a burden of responsibility? To circle this all the way back around to like, the DeepSeeks and the different products that are out there that we agree or don't agree with how they handle sensitive data and where that data goes. But we install apps every single day and we're not asking those questions. But we have no problem asking questions around things like, what security vulnerability does this fix? Why am I patching? Oh, there's new features, go ahead and roll them out. We're basically speaking out of both sides of our mouths with what we're doing today when it comes to what we should be doing from a security standpoint, because we literally are saying, but we don't need the policy, the security policy, or the release notes when we go to add the features and functionality, but yet we can get bent out of shape and wrapped around the axle around the TikTok red note, fill in the blank.
Yeah, exactly. It's just there's a little bit of shared responsibility there, and customers sometimes forget that. But it's a battle we fight, right? Like I'm not going to know the context of what I'm reading on a QuickBooks update. I just don't. Customer
Right,
says to
sure,
do it, and usually it's like tax code or bug
sure.
fixes. You know, like
And we don't necessarily need to know, right? But I think the point I was trying to make, and maybe I'm out of line here, is do we need to keep track of that?
but that's a problem, right? So like for
Sure.
whatever bizarre reason, I watched this guy Brandon on YouTube, and 40 minutes this dude will rail on about iOS 13.1.2 beta, right? And
Sure.
he'll give you the full story about everything and all the way down to the modem firmware has been updated by 2 decibels, right? Like just all this stuff. And that's
Right.
45 minutes of my life
Right.
for a device that I receive phone calls and text messages on, right? I can't possibly I don't even imagine. I don't know
I'm
if
going to
those
send you a
exist.
senior phone is what I'm going to do. I want to
Yeah.
ensure that you can do those two things well, and that's it.
No, but like nobody's out there that I'm aware of making. Let's talk about QuickBooks Update 5.2.3,
Well,
right?
and there probably is, right? Via YouTube, just like
Maybe.
you said, if they're doing
Eh,
beta 13. But to your point, what I'm saying is when we tell a client or we even tell our own staff or ourselves that there's this update available, click install. Why did I do that? Because it's there,
Because it
right?
keeps
Like
bothering you until you do it.
exactly, but
Yeah.
I feel like this is a piece of the equation that suddenly more than ever is coming into the spotlight because of the things that we're seeing with products that someone did go to the version 13 beta release updates and what it made changes to, right? Ooh, the modem updated. Oh, it now talks to fill in the blank country. I mean, just case in point from the commercial that we saw during the Super Bowl with T-Mobile and Starlink. If you caught subtly at the end, it says available for Verizon and whoever else the subscribers were in that list through July for free.
Yep.
Am I opting into it? Is it just turned on? Am I going to get told that my trial is up and I didn't know I had a trial, which means I was communicating with satellites without even giving permission?
Yeah. Yeah. It's all I know, just to make it funny, with all these firmware updates on modems and iOS and things like that. All I know is there's about a 10-foot span on the Howard Franklin Bridge where I guarantee if I'm talking to you, I'll drop the call. So if they could figure out something to make that call not drop, I'm all for it.
Does
Right?
it matter which direction you're going?
It's always when I go home because that's when I call you and I call other
But
people.
I would venture. So I run into this too. You know how rural where I live is. You're like, oh, he must be almost to his house. I can tell you that if I make the call as I'm coming out of my driveway, going the other direction, I generally don't lose the call.
It's funny. Yeah, it's just
So
I want to bend the
it's which
antenna.
direction my yeah, right. Like
Yeah.
maybe if I lick my finger and put my finger on the windshield while I'm driving, I'll be
Yeah.
okay. Well, there you have it. We went in circles around things around privacy and security and when to do the patching. But more importantly, and I think we left this open-ended, how are you communicating to your staff and your clients when it comes to the appropriate use and disclosure of information? Because as Charles so eloquently told us, you could have a device that has built-in smoke alarm functions and you didn't even know it. And what kind of drama or liability is that bringing to your workplace just because you wanted to give your staff the opportunity to print Lego bricks?
Yep. Exactly.
Any last word, Charles?
No. Just think before you click. There you go.
That's right. That's right. Think before you click. I feel like that's like click it, no ticket. For
Yeah.
those of you listening, this has been an episode of MSP 1337. Thanks and have a great week.